Right, so totally different today. You actually join me in the office. So it's that time of year now, it's getting cold, and we're actually coming round to my favourite time of year, which is winter. Which some people think, oh, it's cold, but I think personally, fishing for silvers in winter don't get much better. Love it, get plenty of bites, plenty of action, and at the end of the day, we caught a few fish, come home and have a nice hot bubbly bath. So what I'm going to do is, obviously we're in office today, not out on bank. I'm going to run you through exactly what I do when I'm preparing for a league or anything like that, what I go through. Obviously I do my bits of prep before each match, but I've got a load to do, so I'm going to show you what I get up with. Drink my tea. So where do we start? I'll start hooks. Obviously don't come much simpler these days. Pre-tides, so easy, literally. Take that out, pop that in there, bit of prep done, just while we're doing this. So I use the pre-tides for like the early stages of winter, so these are 011 18s and 010s 20s, all like that. I use pre-tides, 6-inch, in the box, they're done. But I do also tie up a few of my own. So same hooks, oh, got my loop tire there, can't go anywhere without that. Honestly, once you've used one of them, you won't go back. Loop tires, tie all my loops with one of them. And then this, also just filled with hooks. So in here, I tie my 08s to the bit of everything really, 16s, 18s and 20s. So I use SFLBs. 08, obviously the pre-tides don't come in 08, and I do think it's a lot, like it benefits you as it gets colder, fish get a bit finicky. They've been caught a few times, just dropping down that hook size and line size definitely does get you a few more bites. So I like to be prepared, tie up a load before the league starts, and then just top up what I use after each match. As it's easy as that basically. So I do a load of prep, as I say, leading up to it. Then once I've had the match, come back home, get my stuff out, and then I'll tie it for the week, ready to go again. So as I say, SFLs. These are a really lightweight hook, barbless. Obviously most commercials are barbless these days, but the hook's really fine wire and light, so your bait flutters through water. As you'll see when I move on to rigs, I like to fish a lot through the water. If I were to use an heavier gauge hook, it just literally bombs through and it's a bit too heavy for what I want this time of year. Just them nice delicate bites, roach, so you just want something that's going to penetrate straight in, nice and sharp hook and really light. Moving on from that, so we'll move up onto the rigs. So I do tie quite a few rigs, so these are a selection of floats that I use. So I like the Chanties and the F1 maggots. You can see exactly the same body, so you might think, well, why do you tie them both up? I also set them both up each match. If I can get away with it, I do like a Chanty. They're a lot more delicate, a lot finer, you can see more indications, and it's just a lot more, as I say, sensitive fishing through the water, as I do with most of my rigs this time of year. With it being shallow, the venue that I fish at the Oaks, I like to fish them through the water rather than bomb it down, just so you catch the eyes of the fish as they're going through, and quite a lot of the time your float will just about settle, you'll get a dink and it's fish on. But I also set up the F1 maggots, lovely float these, and the only difference is really is a tip. So the Chanties have a cane tip, which is a lot more sensitive, and the maggots have a hollow bristle, which is still sensitive but not as sensitive. You can dot these down to a right pimple, but sometimes a light at the Oaks can be horrible, as in like it's all dappled water with trees, and if the light's wrong you just can't see the Chanties, and it's pointless fishing. If you can't see your float, there's no point in even being there, just lifting up and hoping there's one on. Whereas that's when this comes into play. So I put the F1 maggot over the top, sits there, you're just looking at your little dimple and you'll just get literally a little dip and fish on. So I can see that in any light, any conditions, and obviously it's a game changer. There's no point. You see a lot of people on moaning at end of match being like, oh, I can't see my float for the last hour because light's gone and it's all dappled trees. But if you stick one of them on, obviously if it gets too bad, take a shot off, pop it up a little bit more. As long as you can see your float, you're fishing. It's pointless being fishing and not being able to see your float. Sounds stupid, but there's a lot of people that do it. With the shotting patterns for that as well, I like to use light shots. So I'll use like 10s and 11s strung out from the bottom, so I'll spread them equally apart from the hook. And that just means, so when I put the rig in, I don't just drop it in. I usually lay it to the side and fish it through the water. So I'll hold on to it, let the rig do the work. And as I've said, usually when it gets to the bottom, usually get a little dink, and that's when you get your bites. It's not very often you sit there and have to like bulk and two dropper and lay on a bit. Obviously, if you're fishing for skimmers, I'd lay on a little bit, but usually I fish it dead depth through the water looking for them bites. And obviously I always fish these with a back shot, so it's dead important. You don't want your rig moving around, you want to hold on to it. Sometimes if there's a bit of wind, you don't want to be moving end of your pole and your rig moving around. You just want to hold on to it and let it fish. So that's the rigs. Obviously one down, quite a few to go, but we'll get there. We've got a little bit of time yet. Up from that, we'll move on to elastic choice. So this is quite an important one. Obviously different people have different views, but I've tried a few and you always come back to the original slip. No better elastic than this for this time of year. And I like to fish it a 5 through a top 2 for like the deeper lake, which is willows, and if there's any skimmers or you think you're going to catch the odd bigger fish, that through 2 is lovely. It comes out enough, you don't want to bump any. Every fish is vital, especially the weights at the Oaks. If you've ever looked at the results, you'll know that literally ounces make a difference between points. And the amount of time, I think the other year I missed out on framing by 1 ounce, which is easily done, but if you wouldn't have had it quite right, you bump that one fish off, or that's all it takes to make the difference between obviously picking up money and not picking up money at the end of the day. And then we've also got the free original slip. So I actually fished this just through a top 1. So it is really light, but it doesn't stretch quite as far as what you would through a top 2. So it's alright to swing a few fish in. And with it being really light, when you hook into a fish, even the small roach, with it being a shallow venue, you don't want to hook them and the splash on the top. You want to hook them, stay where they are, and then just guide them out of the peg. Last thing you want is too heavy elastic, strike, bring them to the top, splash. And especially as the water clarity drops and the fish get spooked from other fish splashing. So you want to keep it as soft as possible. Try and hook into your fish, bring them out of the wave where the other fish are feeding, and then bring them back. And that free through a top 1 just acts perfect. Couldn't recommend a better elastic for that type of fishing. Obviously there's not many carp that get hooked in these venues or the Oaks. Like there's the odd peg, and that's when I fish the 5 because it deals with it. I have had quite a lot of carp out on the free, but obviously it just takes it a bit more time, and then it overstretches and it dangles, and it's just a bit annoying. But that's the sort of thing that you've got to put up with on these matches. Luckily there's not many that get hooked, so we're usually alright. So that's it basically. I've got my elastics that I've run through, got them to change, so I'll be bringing them in, changing them in the next couple of days. Got a few rigs to make on my chanties and the F1 maggot, so I will do a few smaller rigs to fish fruit water, and then that's it, hooks. That's all my prep done. So it'll take me a couple of days, bits here, bits there, but then that's the bulk of it done, ready to go. And then as I've said, I'll just literally top up my gear, retie my rigs, retie my hook lengths after each match. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed this. Obviously a little bit different. It's getting a bit that time of year now where we can't quite get out as much. We've got a lot of commitments with winter leagues and other sessions, but we'll bring you one on the bank again sometime. Cheers guys.